Welcome to the American Cannabis Report on PCM-TV. I'm your host, Christopher Smith, and today I'm feeling super fortunate to have Bryan Buckley, one of the founders of the Helmand Valley Growers Company. Hey, Bryan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. It's really great to have you here. Thanks for making the time.
Oh, no, super excited about this.
I've been reading your bio on your website, and I got to tell you, it reads a little bit like a Tom Clancy novel. I'm sure a lot of people probably ask you what it's, what it takes to not only to be a Marine, but to be special ops and to do the things that you guys have all accomplished. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and about what it really takes to get to the level that you've been?
Yeah, for me, I remember I was getting recruited in high school when I was playing football to go to United States Naval Academy, and I just had like no desire at all to go there. But then after the events of 9/11, I was at the University of Massachusetts playing football there. I decided it was just time for me to go earn my citizenship. So finished out the season and then transferred to Villanova University and joined the ROTC program. Was there for 2 years, had to go through officer candidate school in Quantico, Virginia. And then I received my commission and started off in the infantry, did a tour to Iraq and came back. They said, why don't you try out for Marine reconnaissance? So I tried out for that, made it, and they rewarded me by sending me right back to Iraq 6 months later. And then when I came back from that deployment, they said, we just started up a new thing with Marine Special Operations. And it was a really long time for actually the Marine Corps to go into Special Operations Command. But after the events of 9/11, the President of the United States and Secretary of Defense were like, we're not even going to ask, you're doing it. And had to go through a pretty arduous selection process where I believe it was well over 200 of us started off and about 20 or 30 of us actually made it at the end. So it was a pretty intense selection process. And it was pretty amazing. You just see the methodology they go through of how to select special operators. And from that point on, I was a team commander and did deployments into Africa, Southeast Asia, as well as Afghanistan, in particular the Helmand province, which is kind of where the whole entire birth of the company, Helmand Valley Growers Company, really derived from.
Right. And now you're the co-founders are Andy and Matt?
Correct.
Okay. And all three of you then were all at that same level?
Yes. Yeah. All three of us served as Marine Raiders. So everyone's like, what is a Marine Raider? And I just tell them it's a lot like a Navy SEAL. We're just better looking.
Well, that's clear, obviously. Anyone can see that. And I just because I know that you're a humble guy and probably won't say this, so just for the sake of the viewers, I'll tell them that you've won the Bronze Star and also a Purple Heart. Yes. So you're really truly an American hero, and I'm really quite honored that you're here, and I appreciate you so much for all that.
Well, thank you very much for that. It was definitely my honor to be able to serve at the capacity that I could, and for me, it was quite the honor to be able to serve with my heroes. Not everyone has an opportunity to do that.
Well done. That's great. And so now I think about the transition, right? You've done all of that, and now you're set to come back to the United States. And just to jump ahead, you go from that and that level of performance and that level of intensity, and you come back and you end up in the cannabis business. Yeah. So help me connect the dots on those two things, because it's going to seem for a lot of people like a big jump.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very interesting path I took to get there. When I left the Marine Corps, I went and worked for an ed tech firm, was doing really well, making some good money, but wasn't really fulfilled. And that's when I started seeing what was going on with our veterans and myself being 100% disabled as well. So we formed our nonprofit called Battle Brothers Foundation, where we wanted to help out vets on a personal, medical, and economic side. And during that whole entire process, I was just having a really rough time sleeping. I was just kind of dealing with my own little personal demons. And that's when I was introduced to medical cannabis. And the first time I used it, I had a great night of sleep and kind of sat back and thought about it and said, how can we make this something impactful? There's been a lot of great veteran advocacy groups out there. I'm part of one called the Veterans Action Council. But I really wanted to have an opportunity to talk with some members of Congress to see what gaps could we fill for them? Like, what are we missing here? And when I talked to some of the legislators, they pretty much said, listen, behind closed doors, I would say to you, yeah, cannabis probably works, but without data, I would never go in front of the camera and back it up. So they're listen, you can get American doctors and you can get data, you're going to have a very good argument. So
Okay.
through this whole process, we were able to join up with a group called Niametic Healthcare Research Services out of Israel, who specializes in cannabis research, and then also brought on the University of California at Irvine with their health department, which is our American doctors. And we submitted for an institutional review board and were approved for it, which means we've been cleared by the government to do human trials with it. And the funny thing was, where Helmand Valley Growers really came from, it was kind of a means to an end, where we're like, this is going to be a very expensive research odyssey we're going on. We won't take money. The federal government probably won't give us money for do that. We're dealing with cannabis. So we looked at a Paul Newman salad dressing bottle and went 100% of profits to charity. And that's when we said, hey, let's just get an adult use brand out in California, and we'll take 100% of our profits to fund our cannabis research. And essentially, with our first $50,000 worth of profits, that's what it costs to develop our IRB study design. We put that right there into the study, and we continue to do that today with all of our profits. We just take it back and put it into fund our research.
That's really quite incredible. There are so many people who talk about, we donate a portion of a slice of a little bit, and it sounds like you guys' commitment is so much more profound.
Absolutely. This is probably the most important mission of my life, and I'm all in. So we're going to make this happen.
That's fantastic. One of the first, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of this fellow, one of the first veterans that I interviewed was a guy named Boone Cutler. He was U.S. Army, he was a paratrooper. Have you heard of him?
I have heard of him, yes.
Yeah, he created the Spartans Pledge also, so he's known for that as well. And he created a company called Warfighter Hemp out of Colorado. And similarly, they did it a little bit differently than you're doing. They gave their money directly to veterans' families, especially those who had taken their own lives. So that was his sole focus. He really had a rough go. He got hit by a mortar and had 17 surgeries and stuff, and had a similar journey to yours, though, where except for a lot more opioids in Walter Reed, but in trying to get out of that and get out of that sort of zombie drug kind of cycle that so many of you guys are in after you've been wounded. And he missioned himself that way. So that was a profound experience as well.
Wow. Yeah, it's tremendous. You love hearing those stories about these great Americans who did so much for our country. Then they, get out, and now it's kind of their turn to be in the private sector, and they still have that, I call it like the sheepdog syndrome. You still want to serve and give back. And this is very tremendous what some people do.
Remarkable. Is there anything else you want to tell me? You talked about the Battle Brothers Foundation. Is there anything else you wanted to say specifically about that? And we can include links to, things that you'd like to include as well. Anything you'd like, really.
Yeah, I think one thing I love talking about is where our company came from, meaning Helmand Valley Growers Company. Okay. It's our way to kind of honor the legends of Helmand. As a Marine Raider, when you serve in the Helmand province, you become part of the Helmand Valley Gun Club and you get an HVGC tattoo. So when we were developing this company, we wanted to keep a military niche. And we threw HVGC up on the wall and said, hey, Helmand Valley Growers Company. And I went and talked to the guys and said, I'm going to have to trademark this, so on and so forth. Are you guys good with it? And they're like, hey, not only are we good with it, but we want to get a job with you when we get out.
There you go. There you go.
And it's a great way, too, for us to have the opportunity to talk to about some of those legends who gave everything they had over there. That this is kind of in memory of their service. So someone we're just extremely proud of, and was really humbling is how much people have come around and gravitated towards us. Even people in the cannabis community, they will do things and they want to donate right back to us. And technically we're competitors, but I think everyone understands this is one mission, one fight. So it's just been an outstanding experience.
Oh, that's so great. Tomorrow, in fact, I'm doing a news section, a segment on ethical practices, but really flipping it around, which is to talk about how the consumers actually have power in this, and they can actually turn their dollars to do good work as well if they choose to, and not just go to the closest dispensary they can find or the nearby shop or some such, but actually go put their dollars to work in a good way. So I'm going to mention you guys if you don't mind.
I would love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. You guys are out of San Diego, though, right?
That is correct.
And are you only a growing operation, or tell me now a little bit more about all the scope of the work that you guys do? Because I know it's a little bit more than that.
Yeah, no, it was great. We we fell under a lucky star, and two gentlemen who've been very successful in the cannabis community, George and Cody Sadler, really brought us in underneath their wing, and basically have supported us the whole way through this. Where we were probably one of one company in America that could actually get product on the shelf with $0. I mean, they're like, listen, get it on. We'll pay for everything. You just make us whole. We're not taking any money from you. We want you guys to keep all the profits. So. We started off really basic with distillate with an indica hybrid sativa and expanded from there. And now we provide distillate, live resin, pre-rolls. We're about to have a really cool thing come out here in February that we're kind of currently working on now, but we're going to expand more into the flower phase here. And the big thing is we're rapidly growing, and we got a lot of projects on the hopper, but it's going to be another opportunity for us to coincide with Bowder Brothers Foundation to help veterans find work. We're going to offer them opportunity to work with us, whether it be in the sales world, manufacturing, cultivating, whatever it may be. But I just think it's a turn on for a lot of veterans where it's still somewhat of an austere environment and the rules are kind of being made up as we go. And that's a lot like warfare. So it's kind of a really cool thing where you're seeing veterans kind of gravitate towards this community. And I just think it's going to make it that much more stronger.
That's outstanding. That's fantastic. I have a couple of other, maybe offline we can talk about. I have a couple of dispensary opportunities that may be good for you, maybe a good match for you. So we'll see. Yeah, happy to. Tell me a little bit more then about the other two fellas, Andy and Matt, if you wouldn't mind. I know they're not here today, but it'd be great to hear about them.
Yeah, no, Andy really was kind of the guy who, was really probably the first guy who introduced me to cannabis, where he was just telling me what helped him. And he had a very impactful saying that really triggered me, where he said, "This has helped me transition from a warrior to a gardener." And that's when I just thought, like, hey, that's a pretty impactful statement. And we really started looking at like the agritherapy and everything that cannabis can do. So Andy's just an outstanding guy, wears his heart on his sleeve, and it's just very fortunate to have him around. And Matt kind of came on kind of towards the end after the kind of concept came through. Really, this concept was developed back in 2016, and Matt kind of jumped on around the 2019 timeframe to kind of help out. But he believed in the mission, and very good things with him.
That's perfect. Hey, just real quick, are you guys strictly on the medical side or medicinal side, or are you on the adult use side?
So we're on the adult use side, and what will happen is, so through our research, this will be something that will be offered, throughout all the dispensaries, but it'll be the first thing we'll have medical data backing it. But the ultimate end state is, once we get through our 3 studies, we would do 2 here in California. We're going to do our 3rd and final one in a different state. But at that point, we'll have a treatment and a formulation protocol developed. And once that goes through and we can show that it's repeatable and accessible, having the same results, we will go back in front of Congress. I'll raise my right hand saying, here's your data, here's your American doctors. Can we proceed with FDA trials? And I will not stop until medical cannabis is available in the VA pharmacies and can be prescribed to veterans who it would help them or help benefit them.
Yeah, good luck to you. There's the battles are still ongoing, even in some of these states. Like you see what's happening in Mississippi and South Dakota. Even though the voters have supported it and the voters have approved it, the governor comes back and pulls a trick or pulls a fast one, this and that. You've probably been reading about what the governor of Mississippi is saying about how he wants to cut medical patients' daily allocation in half because he thinks it's too much. He doesn't know anything about cannabis at all. Right. He thinks that's a big number. It's too big a number for his head to get around. He wants to cut their medicine in half.
It's just really alarming when you hear that, and you have people who are in these decision-making positions and they're uneducated on what's going on. I mean, I can even say, dealing with the whole opiate crisis, America, we tend to knee jerk. And at one point we're like, hey, you know what? These opiates are really bad. Well, let's stop giving it to them. Well, I know of numerous veterans who committed suicide because they were just cut off clean from opiates. And you can't do that to people.
That's rough.
And then, you're seeing here with cannabis where people are like, I know nothing about it, but I'm going to make a law about it because I'm here. That's why I always tell people, go out and vote. We had situations where we were in San Diego where we had people in elected positions who were just completely misinformed. And we use the power of the vote, and they're no longer in that position. So, and people will come around. I mean, you're starting to see things now move in the United States Congress on both the House and the Senate side with both Democrats and Republicans, where things are starting to kind of turn around and they're starting to see, hey, maybe we should start looking at some of these alternative medications. So again, people tend not to like to go out and vote for whatever reason, but that's one of our most important civic duties. And if you really feel strongly about something, go out there and make your voice heard, because you can't have someone up there in that glass tower just making a decision saying, ominous dominus, I'm just going to cut it because that number looks big to me, with no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, 100% agree. And education is such a big deal. There's been so much misinformation and poor information and propaganda, frankly, for so many years. It really is tough to get through that and turn people around and get them to see things in a whole new way. It's a lot of work.
Tremendous. But, we're getting there. And that's what I love about the opportunity with what we're doing on our research side. But you have a lot of other people out there who are jumping on research, like schools like University of Pennsylvania, and they're not going to be working with the NIDA or National Institute of Drug Abuse. They're going to work with private farms. We have a private IRB. It's going to be our own stuff that we're working. And eventually, the legislators are going to get hit from the left and the right and from above with numerous studies coming in, all pretty much saying similar things that we're seeing in Israel. And the numbers don't lie. You can't deny it. So I think we're on the tipping point of some really amazing things here to change the medical landscape of our country.
I think that's strong. I just read last week that there were 2,500 peer-reviewed papers written last year on cannabis research alone. 2,500. So that's a steep incline, and that's important work.
Yep, absolutely.
Is there anything, Bryan? Is there anything in terms of the company or products that you'd particularly like to talk about? I want to make sure that we get out the information about where we can find you, your company, your products, et cetera, and make sure that we get that information out there to viewers as well.
Yeah, that's great. So, unfortunately, as the laws go, what we grow here in California can only be sold in California. So if you are in California, you're visiting, check out our website, hvgcompany.com. We have a little map on there where you can plug in where you are in your area code, and you can find the closest dispensary that provides Helmand Valley Growers Company product. We can't say anything that we have anything medically backed. We can just say from our personal experiences, but everything we've used or we developed has been through feedback from veterans who are suffering with post-traumatic stress that has benefited them. And that's what we just try to meet their needs. And we're having some really good results from that. And then also too, if you just want to help us out in any way, you go to our nonprofit, BattleBrothersFoundation.org, and donate. We do a lot of things with the money and help out a lot of vets in different ways. And, I always would laugh when I hear those commercials, like every dollar counts, but now being a guy in this position, trust me, every dollar counts. So whatever you do to help, we would be truly blessed and thankful for.
Fantastic. Well, it's been really great to chat with you today, and I'm so glad you were able to take the time from your busy schedule. I really appreciate you, and say hello to the other guys for me, please. I hope. And again, we'll keep in touch on these other issues, like other dispensary opportunities, and maybe even other military or veteran-oriented kind of projects that I might hear about and might be helpful to you as well.
Fantastic. I appreciate the time today, sir.
All right, Bryan. Thank you so much. Take care.
All right, you too.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.